The following is a presentation of the Sports Stove Media in partnership with Belly Up Sports. Welcome in to a new edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour, and really the last regularly scheduled local hour. We'll give you some news here and a little bit about some other episodes coming in the relatively near future, and excited about that. But we wanted to take time tonight to look back a little bit. We'll talk about Saturday's game. We're going to look at the EKU roster for 2025. I did some work on this afternoon. Really intrigued by some names on that roster that I didn't expect to see, as well as a lot of new faces already plugged in. We're going to talk about the season kind of in general. We'll do that more in another episode. And then we're going to hand out the annual Sports Stove Awards tonight. And I'm excited to get Duff's thoughts on these guys. I never let Ryan help me with the awards because I can't get you in trouble with your friends, your teammates, your coaches.
Right.
But I like to get your feedback on them, of course, as well from there. So we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight, but let's start with the downer, and then we can lift it from there after that point. Yeah. Saturday at Villanova came down literally to the last play, and I could feel the heartache in my living room all the way from Philadelphia for you guys. I was gutted for you guys. But tell me a little bit about the game, because it was close the entire game. We'll talk about the fumble and everything as well, but just give me the general feel. This is your second playoff game, and it kind of felt like it was a lot more fun than the first one. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it definitely was. I think the first one, if you go back to Gardner-Webb in 2022, our mentality with that one was we're at home, we're favored, and you had a lot of people who were overly confident, thinking we were just going to come in and steamroll them, And there were a couple other fundamental issues with some of the, just like it was kind of personnel, people that we had that had the wrong mentality, and Coach Wells made a point after that. He's like, we're getting guys that want to go win national championships. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. He didn't, you don't know until you get in the season whose mental is going to break like that. And so in 2024 here, so we go to Villanova, and I think our mentality was so strong going into that game. We'd had our backs against the wall for 5 weeks straight. We're a confident team, but we weren't overly confident or thinking we were going to walk on anyone. And that's kind of been our thing as a team that we've talked about, is we aren't going to just roll out the ball and go dominate someone. We got to go win. We got to go lock into what we're doing, and we got to win the week through preparation and practice. And so it was big on film study and all that. And I thought everyone did a really good job attacking that. The mentality was good, went into the game strong, and started off fast. Definitely fun to be in those tight games and everything. Tough when, individually you make a mistake or there's something like that happens. So tough to deal with that one, but ebbs and flows of the game. We had good, strong start, and then hit a little bit of a lull with a few errors, and then hit another good, strong point. Defense stayed solid the whole time. Definitely was an exciting game, and there was no point in that game where anyone felt like we weren't going to win it until after that last play. And so definitely the hardest. Been a part of some crazy games, and you've seen here at EKU, but especially just given the stakes and the nature and everything that happened, definitely the hardest loss I've ever taken in my life. So definitely tough feeling.
Yeah. And I was thinking about how to approach this, because let's talk through it. Like, one of the things I talked about on Twitter was everybody was going off on the officials, and we will get to that, and rightfully so. But I said it late in the fourth quarter. I was like, yes, the officials had a really, really bad call. I was like, but there was a safety, there was a blocked field goal, there were offensive opportunities that didn't end in points, and the officials can be bad all game, but you guys had plenty. You had the ball at the 20-yard line or closer, right there at the end of the game too, with actually a guy wide open, which I know makes it hurt even worse. Yeah. Talk to me about the safety. I know a couple weeks ago you had one that slipped out of your hand. What happened? What happened on that one?
Yeah, so a few weeks ago that was kind of crazy, and it didn't really bother me in the sense of I was pissed for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like really uncharacteristic. I'd never had a bad snap in a game before ever. So definitely not something I was like worried about or thinking of. And then Saturday, everything was pretty good as far as warm up went well and first snap went well. And then on that second snap, we went out there. Essentially on that play, they schemed us up pretty well as far as they had a good block on, and we were having trouble communicating who's going to protect where. And we're trying to motion our gunner in, and then that took a little bit of time. And so as far as my bad snap went, I was just sitting there in my stance for probably like 25, 30 seconds, kind of listening. And our cadence, obviously, usually we have like a nice little flow to our cadence. Well, now we're kind of talking through a lot of things, and I got to do a better job. One thing that I've always tried to work at and be better at is being able to sit in my stance and hold that like wall sit for a long period of time and still snap and deliver the ball. And so I think I just got a little too comfortable in my stance and was hard to fire back up out of it. And so definitely a deflating feeling. I've never had that in my life. Like I said, high school, pee-wee, college, nothing like that. So to happen in the last game, it's been a long road as far as the week has been depressing. But the other thing, I'll spin on it too. Like I said, I've never done anything 47th game or whatever that is of my college career, but count how many high school. I'd never done that before. But I come to the sideline and I'm like, obviously it's a crucial game, crucial moment. And the amount of guys that just come up to me, I mean, and they were nice. They're like, yeah, you've never done that before. Like, you got it, like whatever. And I knew that I had the next one, I felt confident in my ability. I knew where it went wrong as far as just sitting in the stands, getting too comfortable. But it just speaks to the team. I love my teammates, man. This year they've been so uplifting in any instance. And I had told you, I don't know if I said it on here, when I had that first bad snap of my career against Central Arkansas. I had never been in that point where like I wasn't lifting someone up; they had to come lift me up. And the fact that I'd never had someone tear me down or anything this year or talk crap or anything, it speaks to the culture of the team. And Coach Wells has been here for 5 years. I've been here for 5 years, and you've seen it build every year. And so I feel like everything really came to fruition this year. Mm-hmm. And so definitely, if I had to take anything out of it, not the ideal last game or moment in the last game, but yeah, my teammates are there for me, and they're awesome.
And I in the moment I was like, okay, it actually could have been worse. You got out of the end zone. It was 2 points. The punt, you're going to give them the ball anyhow. So they really just gave them 2 points, and that was it at the end of the day. But yeah, I tell you, doing this show has changed the way I watch. And so like when it happened, my first thought was, first of all, I was screaming, get it out of the end zone. Like, don't let them recover it. Right. And then as soon as the play was dead, I immediately thought about you, man. And I was like, oh, I hate this for Jonathan. I absolutely hate it for you. And but I know you do. You have great teammates. Coach Wells and the staff have done a great job with the culture as well. And, so I knew that at that point in the game, it was recoverable. It wasn't that wasn't it. And of course you talked about right off the bat, second play of the game, Carter goes bonkers for a touchdown, which was awesome. Let's talk about the fumble / incomplete pass. I'll tell you, I don't know. Did you watch back the broadcast? Did you listen to the broadcast?
Yeah, I did. When I got the bus right after.
We're listening to the Villanova guys call the game, of course. And at first, the guy, I think he's a former player, the not the play-by-play guy, but the other guy, he's like, oh, it may have been incomplete. And when I saw it happen, I immediately was trying to think of what's the tuck rule, because I was thinking back to Tom Brady, Charles Woodson tuck rule. They showed it on the replay, and everyone agreed. No, that's a fumble. He was not throwing it. He started to throw, and then he stopped and he pulled it back in.
And Frank hit his elbow. I mean, it was a terrible call. I don't have any more NCAA football to play left either, so I can say whatever I want. But terrible call, and we kind of talked about it. And there were two people that have seen that play. There are two people out of everyone that I know, including Villanova fans, that I've seen on social media talking about it. And fans from other schools and FCS Nation or whatever it was. There are two people that have seen that play and thought that it was an incompletion, and they were the two people that mattered and called it on the field, and that was it.
Yeah.
So no one else have I heard said. And the fact, I think the craziest part is the fact that it was called a touchdown, called a fumble touchdown,
And
they thought there was enough evidence to overturn.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely tough to swallow.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It had been called an incomplete pass, and then they upheld it. That's one thing. But to overturn it, meaning that they saw clear evidence in their opinion to overturn it, doesn't make any sense at all. What did Coach Wells say about his penalty? Did he say anything about it? Because he didn't get the penalty at that moment. Of course, it was the next play that the flag got thrown on him. And I know what he claims was said. Well, at least you tell me, what did Wells say? Did he say anything about that penalty?
Said something about like that was the only penalty they got right or something. It was funny. and people are always, so let's say the head coach goes and gets a penalty, you're always like, oh, you can't cost them 15 yards and stuff like that. And I get it, like in the grand scheme of things, but I talked to Stone about it and I talked to a couple of teammates about it. And I'm like, I have no problem with him going right there and fighting for us and getting that 15 yards because that was some bull crap and they needed to hear it. So, sometimes it's, and I know yards are precious and coach always says no one's bigger than, no one's worth a penalty or whatever, but I don't know. I wasn't too mad about coach getting that penalty because he was fighting for us and he was right. And there is a point where we got to keep our cool through it all, like as a team, because we were all kind of losing it there on the side. I mean, I was on the field. Jeremiah scored. I was on the field ready for the PAT. We blew it to the sideline. I was still on the field because I was just sure I was about to go snap a PAT.
Yeah.
So everyone was just in shock when they called it otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, in that moment, and listen, I get technicals in basketball. I understand the situation. But he got the penalty at the right time where it was a long play, first down already. Anyhow, you got him closer, but you guys had him at that point, 3rd and long after that penalty, and they still snuck out that first down. So those are the kind of the little things, right, that you look at and go, yeah, I mean, as a coach, I don't think that you can give up those 15 yards. You could have done it before that play. I feel like, but after that long play, I was like, don't do that. But then again, the defense looked really solid. And then the long pass. So little things here and there. I got to think that Jackson House is another guy who's still thinking about that last play right now. Because again, he was so stinking wide open, but he was out of bounds before he caught it, out of bounds when he caught it. Obviously that was the right call, an obvious call, but I just got to imagine that's the kind of stuff that just sticks with you. Luckily for him, he gets to come back and play again. But I'm sure that's something he thinks about on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's why it's important. Like, love that guy, and he's a hard worker, and he's so selfless. The way that he's moved from quarterback to receiver and really just he hasn't been in there at receiver a whole lot. He's been over there on special teams working his butt off, and to go from quarterback to special teams, it shows that he's a team player. Mm-hmm. And so him making that mistakes are a part of the game. And like you said, everyone looks at the last play or the blown call, but there's a combination of a lot of plays that go into a football game. And so we all had our own errors. And so, it doesn't come down to that last play. So I know he would want that one back, but hopefully he gets that back and gets that redemption.
Definitely. And, it's I hate it for, like I said, I hate it for you guys to go out that way, because it was a game that you basically won. I mean, at the end of the day, at one point, if the call goes the right way, I think you guys have that lead that I don't think Villanova is going to come back from.
And it's different if they call that targeting on Cal-Wise and we get the ball on the 2-yard line. That was another.
So I actually agreed with the non-targeting call. I could see the call had it stuck as well. I felt like it was a shoulder lead personally. But I could see where, again, in the claims of player safety, I could see where
it was on the criteria of to a head or neck of a defenseless player.
Yeah.
I think that, and being able to avoid that, I think it's our conference officials who are obviously biased at this type of. That's why they don't ref our games. So I think our conference officials cited that as one of the mistakes that they thought were made.
Hmm.
And so that was also just like a frustrating moment, just because I think he
Yeah.
was defenseless. But then again, obviously it was close. But you get down to the 2-yard line. It's all those little things, you know. You get
Yeah.
down to the 2-yard line and have a chance. Maybe we're not throwing the ball, or maybe we got a little out to Josh or whatever out of the backfield, swing route or something, you know.
Yeah.
Things are different.
Yeah. And of course, you'd still have to convert the 2-yard play at the
Yep.
same time, too. So it doesn't guarantee anything either.
Right.
But man, just tough way to go. A tough way to end a career, college career. Tough way to end the season for everybody as well. But you guys, it was a fun game to watch. I really did. I enjoyed watching. I had my normal complaints and all that kind of stuff too, but I had a fun time watching it and following along for sure. Some big games from some guys that you spent a lot of time with as well. I mean, the things that D-Bake and Jeremiah did were incredible, and there were other guys that were doing things that didn't show up on the stat sheet. But I mean, just a dominant game for them. And you continue to see guys like Maddox just play. Braden played really, really well. There's a lot of good things that happened. Josh Carter played well. Latham played well. I mean, there's a lot of good things in that game. So
for sure.
But it's funny. You got 21 guys graduate. You got a couple guys that have announced they're transferring out. I want to ask you, I should have asked you before we came on air, so you can handle this however you want. I really felt like Brian Johnson was a guy that every teammate that I talked to about Brian Johnson loved Brian Johnson. And it seemed like when he was on the field, he contributed, but it just didn't seem like he got the playing time here. And I don't know what it is or why it is, but it seemed like of all the guys that are graduating and transferring, it seemed to me like Brian Johnson was the guy that was kind of from the outside kind of fit what EKU was trying to do and never really got the legit opportunity to get consistent playing time. So I'm happy for him, looking for another opportunity. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on BJ?
Yeah, as far as BJ goes, came in with me as a freshman, been here at EKU for 5 years. Could have transferred earlier, not getting playing time the way he liked, but he always went to stick it out and stick it out and stick it out. And so I'm happy for him that he's going to find a new home and go one more year and try to have a big year, and see what his future holds after that. But no doubt, I mean, when he's been in the ball game for us, I think it was Robert Morris this year. He caught his first career touchdown year 5. But, you look back to last year, I remember back-to-back weeks, Kentucky and Western Carolina, they put him in the game, gave him a 50-50 ball. It came down with both of them. So one thing I'll say about BJ is if you give him a 50-50 ball, it turns into a 60-40 ball or a 70-30 ball. So he's incredibly talented. We've had a stacked receiving room for the past several years. As far as we've turned out a lot of great receivers, and BJ will be one of them, or he is one of them. And so I'm interested to see where he goes and excited for him. And I hope he lands another top tier school and gets to show off what he can do.
You definitely. Looking at the roster, I count something like 12 new guys already on the roster. This is not the freshman signing class, by the way. One quarterback, 4 offensive linemen, 1 D tackle, 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 5 linebackers, and 1 kicker that are all on the roster as of today that are sophomores or higher. So there you go.
They put them on the roster already.
Yeah, they're on the website.
Yeah, I didn't know they had a kicker already.
Yeah, so they let's see here, Ashton Lutz.
Oh, wait. So they put him as a sophomore?
Yeah.
He's a freshman this year. So they might have.
Okay, so maybe what happened is all these guys are the freshmen.
They've actually changed the classes on accident.
That's probably what it is.
Who's the quarterback? Was the quarterback Jace Bullock?
Yeah.
Okay. So they definitely are trying to transition the roster to 2025, but I've accidentally done that under the 24. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So
I was gonna be shocked. I was like, they're making quick work.
That's what I was saying. I'm sitting there going, wait a second. So hey, Isaac, get on it, man. Fix those things. Okay, that makes sense. Then. But a couple names that are still on the roster that I didn't expect to see on the roster.
Okay.
Jalen Harrod and Kylan Robinson are both
Yep.
still on the roster.
Yep.
So did they both get medical red shirts?
Yes. Jalen Harrod took a year off of football as far as he had his back surgery, and all has gone well. He gets cleared, I think, next week to go back to full go football. And so he's had a year rehab process from that terrible injury. And so I'm excited to see him back on the field. Obviously, I wish he was out all year this year playing and had a senior day with us like he was supposed to, but I'm excited that his football career is not over. And then Kylan Robinson, yes, he has one more year with all those red shirts and medical red shirts. And so, I mean, we just send prayers to him and hope that his recovery goes well and that he can be on the field next year, because then that'll be a big problem for for the UAC.
Right. I mean, right now you're looking at, if everyone's healthy, Maddox Marcellus, Braden Sullivan, the two top leading tacklers from this season, Jalen Harrod, Kylan Robinson. I mean, there's some talent in that room, no doubt. What about Gabe Fletcher? He's still on the roster.
Yep, he's got another one. He's got a red shirt.
There we go. I thought he was done.
He was my class, but he redshirted one of our years, so he's coming back he's the lone D lineman out of our class that gets one more year, so he'll be
very good. That's great, man. That's great. So right now the D line room is Jeremiah Bailey, Brad Gurley, Simon Gee, Gabe Fletcher, Davion Hawkins Ingram, Darius Sterling, Bryce Tapp, Cedric Andrews. That's a pretty solid group right there. Plus the freshmen that are coming in, of course, as well. That's a pretty, with losing as much as they're losing. That's a pretty stacked room still.
Yeah, no doubt.
Your O-line returns three guys that started games this year, and Isaiah Bunn, Liam Copinger, and Tyrell Green. And then you got some other guys that have been around the program now for a little bit of time. I'm interested to see how it shakes down. O'Brien Jackson. I'm a big O'Brien Jackson fan personally. Anthony Johns, Joe Schlarman's around still, Josh Jones, Antonio Gaines, who is a massive human being.
He is going to, I think I can say it on here. He's going to be the next big thing, I think, as far as lineman goes out of EKU. And there's a few of them. This O-line's really loaded with young guys that are really good. But obviously, Tone couldn't play this year, but he'll be back next year, and he will be giving a lot of people fits. I think he'll be the next big thing out of EKU O-line.
And you talked about young guys too. Tyrell Green, of course, was a freshman. Fred Hinton, people talk about Fred in a way that makes you think, obviously losing a guy like Peyton is a big deal. But the talk even this summer about Fred Hinton makes me think that the O-line is going to be just fine.
Fred, and then you have Jalen Eberhard. He also played a little bit here at the end of the year. They moved him to tight end with all our injuries, but he'll be back at offensive line, I think. And so all I've heard all year is about how bright the future is for these O-linemen and how good these young guys are. So,
well, that's exciting because I'm interested to see. I did see one other guy move positions according to and maybe I missed this earlier in the year, but Mark Joseph is now listed as a DB over wide receiver.
Yeah, so he was a DB. Then they moved him to receiver. He was DB. They moved him to receiver. Then they moved him back to DB. Now I think he might be going back to receiver. He's just kind of I started calling him Travis Hunter. He wore the last week of the season. They needed a good scout look out of a receiver or a couple weeks, and he had the offense wears white jerseys, so he had a white jersey on. And I looked at him. I was like, I thought you got moved back to DB. And he pulled his jersey up, and he had maroon on the other one, which is the defensive jerseys. So he was just wearing both, doing whatever the team needed. So he's the man. So I don't know which one he's going to play, but he can do it all.
Yeah, right now the receiver room, Ron Van's coming is listed to come back. Marcus Cowwise, Jaden West, Jacob Dixon, Daquan Stanley, Isaiah Allen, Jackson House, TJ Mitchell. Then you get the young guys like Kyle Vika, Xavier Collette, Elijah Banks, Tyleek Maxwell. It's still just low. This is before the transfer class comes in. So an absolutely loaded group. Tight end, same thing. The Schlack attack, Zach Russell, both back. Mina Mannon are injured this year. then
Right.
Ben Hayes and Ben Fay are guys that I know they brought in last year as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the running back room, by the way, too. Latham, Monty,
Comes back.
Telly.
Yep, Telly.
Yeah.
They got Brady Hensley.
Brady Hensley. Yeah.
He's a stud. And they got a new guy they signed today, Caden Smith's brother, I think it is.
Oh, really?
Peyton Smith, yeah, he signed today. So I've heard
Nice.
really, really big things about him too. So
And quarterback room currently Cam Herget, Colby Lamberth, Brady Clark, Jace Bullock. Obviously, at the moment, Cam would be the front runner for that job. But again, and I love Cam. I've been shouting for Cam for half the season now, and hope he gets a real opportunity. But again, we talked with I don't know if it was when we were talking to Marcus or somebody else. He said Colby's arm, he's got a cannon. Colby Lamberth back there too. So like, I'd assume Coach Wells is comfortable with what he's got going on in the quarterback room right now.
Yeah, the quarterback room's good, and those two, like you just said, are tough guys, and so's Brady, and so's Chase. You know, they got a pretty good room there. But yeah, I'm excited to see what I hope hope this offseason goes well for him, and he just continues to polish up and comes out and leads these guys next year. Obviously, I'm impartial. That's my holder right there. Yeah. So I'm a root for him to go in there and be the guy. And also, I mean, Colby too. Colby's a good friend of mine, and he's killed it. But yeah, Colby has all the tools there, and Cam's got all the tools too. So I think EKU football is in real good hands. I think the offense is in good hands.
Yeah, and I know EKU offered the Gardner Webb quarterback transferring out as well. I don't know much about him. I haven't had a chance to look him up yet.
They would probably bring one more in at least.
Yeah. And I know you're invested in the quarterbacks because it was announced on Twitter today that your cousin finally received an EKU offer up there in Tip City, Ohio.
Yep, he got an offer. I was excited to hear that last night. And so I hope he comes down for a visit here soon. I don't know. But yeah, super excited for him. That'd be kind of surreal if my cousin obviously comes to EKU since I've been here for 5 years, and he just kind of spends his 4 or 5 years here. It'd be pretty surreal, and it'd be cool. He'll be teammates with all my old teammates. You know, it'd be pretty cool. So I hope I'm coming back to Richmond watching him play.
Definitely. If you get him to come down before March, let me know, man.
I will. Yeah.
We'll put on the full court press.
Awesome. Yeah, he should be. I think it will come down in January, maybe.
Okay.
He's got visits the rest of this month, and then I think January will come down.
Very good. Jackson Davis, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jackson Davis out of Tip City, Ohio. So there you go. Be on the lookout, Richmond, for when Jackson Davis comes to town. Receiver had a heck of a year. This year as receiver. Yeah. All right, let's get into the Sports Stove annual awards that we hand out every year. We are adding newcomer this year. We have not handed that one out before. I don't know why not, but we have it. So we got Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, and then Newcomer. Some of these are really, really easy, and other ones are a little bit harder to do. So let's start with Coach of the Year. Last year, we split the duties between the two special teams coordinators. I gave them both a little credit for the massive improvement of the special teams last year. So this year we have some options. Couple guys that I consider that I did not pick. Eric Ravalette, the offensive line coach, comes in, replaces Losi. Obviously a veteran crew there. But I really felt like the offensive line did some really, really good stuff this year. And I thought with him being a new voice, it just seemed like everybody really responded well to Coach Ravalette. So I considered him. Coach Mathis on the other side of the line, D-line. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time talking with Ryan over the last couple of years. And when Hawkins left, or however that went down, I was concerned. But as soon as Mathis came in, I mean, the guys loved him immediately. And what they did this year, I give some of the credit because it was such a veteran defensive line that hurt Coach Mathis in this award voting, but he did a great job.
No doubt.
Andy Richmond as the running backs coach. I've given Coach Richmond a little bit of of a flogging this year on the OC side of things, but he's also the running back coach. And I love Andy Richmond, by the way. I want to make sure that's clear. I love Andy Richmond. But as a running backs coach, the things he did this year, again, Josh Carter was amazing. Then he had guys behind Carter that he just continued to coach up well. And every time a running back came in, they contributed. They did their job. He had them ready to go every single time. So he made the nominations for that. Coach Wells, I got to bring him up too, because Coach Wells is, I don't care what anybody says, his back was against the wall coming into this season. There are still people that want to change. And I think I don't know how you can say that after the season that he had. But he was on the hot seat. There's no doubt about it. New AD, that always puts some pressure on him. And most of the other coaches at EKU got extensions before they hired the new AD. And so that's, ADs are always itching to hire somebody. So he was on the hot seat, but what he did this year, and I saw it in the midweek press conference, a change in Coach Wells, where he really kind of refocused, it seemed like, you guys from kind of transitioned a little bit from the, what are we doing, to the, hey, let's have some fun and just enjoy what we're doing here. And it seems like that's really when things turned for you guys. Would that be true?
Yeah, definitely. I think Coach Wells, I think this year also just speaks to, and we talk, I hate the fact how often we use this, but the culture all the time. You got to think, the old guys now in this program are the guys who have been here for 5 years with him. Right. He's the one who took, he took the Roy Kidd days and took all of the great values and everything that this program was founded on and instills it into us. And so, you get 5 years of guys going through that. And, there's a reason they were successful, and Coach Kidd is a legend. And so he made sure that we got back to I'll say the tradition. I was going to say the old ways, but the tradition, and really like what this program was founded on. And he got the right guys to where people buy in. And so, we all kind of talked about it in our last team meeting. That was, Coach Wells said it's one of the most fun years he's ever had. It was definitely depressing goodbye, just because everyone wanted to win, just because we always want to win, but we also just wanted one more week with each other.
Yep.
And so, I think Coach Wells did a really good job as far as, obviously his coaching goes, but also just instilling the culture in us, encouraging the players to lead, and just bringing us all together.
So Coach Wells is my runner-up this year. The winner, though, of the Coach of the Year award, I'm giving to Jake Johnson, defensive coordinator. And, by the way, he works with the linebackers, who had an incredible season also. Here's the thing about Coach Johnson. This year, the defense allowed 10 less points per game than they did the previous year. 17 sacks, 10 forced fumbles, 8 fumble recoveries, 11 interceptions, 148 rushing yards per game, which was about 15, 16 yards better than the previous year, and 239 passing yards per game, which was also 15 yards better per game as well. Everyone saw it, change of system, and he made the changes necessary to do what was best for the team. And I have a lot of respect for what he did this year. And I think he's worthy of this great honor of the Sports Stove Coach of the Year award for Coach Johnson. What are your thoughts on what Jake did this year?
Yeah, Coach Johnson's awesome. He's a great coach. He, it's very clear this year with what he did with the defense. Also, it's tough too. You look at those stats and everything, and those stats look so much more improved and so good. But you even take out games that are outliers like Mississippi State.
Exactly.
Stuff like that, and really like look at what we did in that 5, 6, 7 game stretch in the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, that closed out on that 5-0 run. The defense is what got us in position. Defense, and then obviously good things on the offense. Josh Carter running game O-line, Matt running the ball. Obviously a lot of things, but the defense really set the tone for the team, willed the team, and held the mentality of the team, which obviously we hadn't seen as much when Parker was out there slinging the thing around, and the offense was always the do. But no, and you could see it through spring ball all the way to the end of the season. There's just a huge mentality shift and scheme shift, and the defense balled out.
Definitely. I know every coach is a good coach and all that kind of nonsense, but is there someone else that needs recognition on the staff that I left off?
I mean, I'm always biased a little bit. I think Coach Day did a good job on special teams. He got thrown a redshirt freshman punter who averaged maybe the most in the conference. He's got
I
Mont.
think it was second most. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to find a guy to replace Sloan in the running or in the return game, and he did. Um, and
Yeah.
Schlack attack got a kickoff return touchdown.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Which
give
was a
a shout
coaching
out.
move, right? We talked about that.
Yeah, Coach
Cornelius
Day.
was in the game. You guys
Yeah.
saw that the kicks were coming there.
Yeah.
They made the switch back to
Yeah.
Slack, and
Yeah,
boom,
and there's
touchdown.
also stuff. I mean, I don't know. I may be removed, but I don't know how fine tuned I can get into like what we go through as far as scheme goes in the special teams meetings, in case any of their future opponents watch the Sports Stove podcast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I will say too, Coach is very. He's a student of the game too, as far as special teams goes. He's really plugged in on all the happenings throughout throughout college football. If you think there's a special little tricky whatever rule or something, he knows it. So he does a good job coaching us all up on that. So I'm gonna give him a shout out as well.
For sure. Love Coach Day. He's always a fun guest as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sure appreciate that. All right, let's move to Offensive Player of the Year because this one is just the easiest possible award to give out. And it's Josh Carter, of course. He goes for 1,300 yards, 1,312 yards, 14 touchdowns. He added 24 receptions for 224 yards. So 1,500 yards total for the year as well. And the consistency. Last year, I felt like there would be a game where B. Sloan would take off, and then there would be a game where Josh would take off. And it was never like in the same game. Like they were okay when, they were always okay, but one of them would go off. The consistency of Joshua Carter this year is what the defense is what won the games, I think, but you got to score points to win games. And 14 touchdowns from one guy is pretty impressive to go along with 1,500 total yards. So, like I said, I could mention some other guys, but the reality is this one was a one-horse race. Joshua Carter wins Offensive Player of the Year, and I'm right in that, right? Like there's just nobody. There's good guys, but there's no one that matches up to Josh Carter.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. Yeah, I mean, Josh, you look at what he did this year, and that hasn't been done at EKU in many years. I mean, 5 years, I think, or 6 years since they had their last 1,000-yard rusher alone, and he surpassed that by a lot. Touchdowns coming up in big crunch time. He had three consecutive game-winning touchdowns. I mean, he's kind of putting the team on his back there, and obviously credits to the O-line. I'll say that for him as well. Shout out Stone and all them boys up front and Peyton. But he did something real special this year, and he really put the team on his back in crunch time.
And I love that in that Villanova game, they showed the highlights of those game-winning touchdowns for Josh Carter, which was really cool as well.
3 weeks in a row. Pretty impressive.
Incredible. And that overtime touchdown run, probably the best run. I mean,
I don't know how he got out of that tackle. That was insane.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts. So congrats, Josh, man.
That was tough too. He put like 6 bodies on the ground somehow. I don't know how he did that too. It was like a bomb exploded in the middle of the pile.
Yeah, he's awesome. All right, let's go to Defensive Player of the Year. This one was a little bit harder to choose from. And so I'll give you, I had three candidates. So the two runners up was Gabe Stevens, who went 35 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. The guy was just in the backfield all the time. I mean, he played so well. And then Maddox Marcellus led the team, 97 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 picks, 2 quarterback hurries, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. Again, we've had Maddox on the show twice this year. The season he had was incredible, and we don't take that away from him. But the winner of the Defensive Player of the Year Sports Stove Award is D-Bake. D-Bake had 43 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, 6 quarterback hurries, and 1 forced fumble on the season. And from the first home game, I noticed D-Bake. Like on TV, sometimes, yes, but in person, that first home game, I talked to Coach about it after the game. I was like, man, D-Bake had a game. And he's like, yeah, he did. And like every single game that I was able to attend, I just noticed Darian Baker just wreaking havoc.
Oh, yeah.
So again, there's so many guys. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's tough.
Braden Sullivan, Jeremiah Bailey, Rhino. I mean, there's so many guys that had good years on the defensive side. You could even, I'm not here to bash people, but you look at stats. You could look at some of the DB stats. Well, of course, Mike Smith had interceptions,
Yeah.
And a great season as well.
Mhm.
But when for me, D-Bake was the obvious choice, and that's in a loaded defense this year. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think the defense was incredible this year, and so I was very interested to see where you're going to go with this, just because that is a incredibly hard decision. Everyone you mentioned is deserving of it, honestly. Maddox, Braden, uh, Rhino, Jeremiah, D-Bake, Gabe Stevens. So all of them could. I think D-Bake did play out of his mind this year, and I think he came up huge in the most important moments in the playoff game on Saturday,
Yeah.
and also just in other game crunch time for a lot of different games, but he manhandled people, that's for sure. So I think D-Bake is very fitting for this award. I also would say, shout out to Mike Smith.
Yeah.
He for him, he played really incredible. I saw that he had like top 10 in the country in FCS and FBS and PFF grade or whatever graded play this year as a safety.
Yeah.
And he's getting ready. Fingers crossed, think he should get drafted. So he's gonna have a bright future in front of him with a lot of football. So shout out to him too. He had a great season and was a very good leader. But I have no problem with the D-Bake selection. And shout out, I mean, even if you look at the corners, I'm pretty sure Vito and Jordan were number 1 and number 2 in the conference with deflections. So
yes,
I mean, defense held their own this year.
They did.
They made that pick tough.
And Rhino would be quick to say, had he not absorbed all those double teams, maybe D-Bake wouldn't have had as much success as he had. So shout out to Rhino. Make sure we appreciate what he had to put up with again this season.
30 word.
All right, let's go to most improved player of the year. And 3 guys, again, that I considered for this one. Gabe Stevens, again, I considered. You go back to look at, and I thought I put in, oh man, I would actually did the research and now I don't have it on here. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. So last year, Gabe Stevens had 12 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 sack. This year he goes 35 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Like, talk about improvement from one year to the next. What Gabe Stevens did this year, again, kind of like D-Bake, you just couldn't go a game without noticing what Gabe Stevens. He was in the backfield constantly.
Yep.
So there's Gabe. Gabe Stevens. Then I also considered Gabe Fletcher. In 2023, he had 5 tackles, half a tackle for loss, and 1 interception. This year, he goes 13 tackles. 5 of those were for loss, 3 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery as well. And now that I knew he's coming back next year, I couldn't give him the award. But great improvement. Again, this young man came in this season and took advantage of the opportunities that he had and played really good football.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Came up in big moments again. Another guy.
You're right. So 2 Gabes there, but the winner of the most improved player of the year. In 2023, this guy had 5 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. In the 2024 season, this young man led the team in tackles. Maddox Marcellus, 97 tackles.
Yep.
That is 92 more than he had last year. 7 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 quarterback hurries, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. We could not give out awards without giving something to Maddox, because what he did this year, taking advantage of his opportunities. But even before that, this summer, another guy that when I was talking to Coach Wells about the linebacker room, I didn't mention Maddox, and he said, "Hey, don't forget about Maddox Marcellus."
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And then we see why this year, because Maddox had himself a heck of a season.
Yep. Yeah. No, he had an incredible year. He, to go from being a freshman, definitely a well-deserving award, most improved. Also, him and Braden there in the middle. Obviously we had a lot of injuries go down. For them two to go play the inside linebacker positions every snap of the game for however many weeks straight. Not many people can do that. Not
Right.
many human beings can go sit in there and do that and take those hits, deliver those hits, and go play as many plays as they did at the middle linebacker, inside linebacker position. And they did it, and not only did they just do it, they excelled in it. So those guys both had incredible seasons. Maddox definitely deserving of this award.
When you look at, like you said, this defense is built and designed around rotating guys.
Mhm.
So you see it at the D line position, you see all 3 or 4 guys get subbed down.
Yep.
At the outside linebacker, the Sams and Sams and Mikes? No.
Jacks.
Yeah. Jacks, Sams and Jacks, they get rotated out. We get great players out there. Inside linebacker was the same thing. Coming into the year, you had Jalen, you had Kylan, you had these young guys that were going to get some opportunity. Next thing you know, it's just the young guys. And was it Caden as well, right? He got in there and got some snaps as well. But Maddox and Braden definitely carried the load. And so Maddox gets our most improved player of the year this year. But there were definitely plenty of options on this one as well for guys stepping up this year, no doubt. All right, let's go to newcomer of the year. I had 3 candidates for this one as well. Although I feel like this one wasn't as easy as I first thought it was going to be. I put Jalen Montgomery on the list. He had 60 yards per game, all-purpose yards he averaged, 3rd on the team. And, of course, as kick returner, most of those yards came from that. Punt returns as well, some rushes and receptions also. But, again, he comes in, transfers in from MTSU, steps into a role that was, wide open coming into the summer. And boy, he looked the part immediately. And I'm glad he's going to be back on the team next year as well. Because, again, in the changing of the NFL rules with the kickoffs, guys are going to get drafted based off of their return game. And I thought if B. Sloan had stayed, I felt like that was where he's a great running back as well. But I thought that's where he was going to get drafted was because of his return ability. Jalen comes in, and again, shout out to Coach Day, shout out to all the guys that block. Jalen Montgomery, though, had a great first year in the maroon uniforms. And pretty cool stuff.
Definitely.
I also listed Braden Sullivan, who we talked about just a moment ago. 91 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Again, he comes in from, was it Highlands, I think, community college. He comes in kind of late in the summer as well. And he gets thrust into the starting role, and he did just fine. He looked really, really good there at linebacker. And again, 2nd in the team in tackles when it was all said and done. I don't know. Coach Wells has brought in these transfer linebackers now over the last 3 years, and it just continues with Braden. I mean, what a talent he is.
Oh yeah, he's incredible. And he keeps bringing in Coach Wells keeps bringing in these linebackers that look the part too.
Yeah,
Between Braden looks like a big old meathead, strong as heck, and same with Logan Blake was the same way. Kyle Kelly is the same way. Kylan Robinson's the same way. And we got some meatheads in there that can move some weight in the weight room. So no, but Braden had a great year, and I'm excited because I can't believe he's only a sophomore, and same with Maddox.
Right. And there was a guy a couple years ago that came in from Western, I think, right?
Or FAU, is it Chase Lassiter?
Chase Lassiter, but who was the guy? He was a captain, I think.
Kyle Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey.
I forgot he's at Western. Yeah, I forgot he was there.
Yeah. So he just brings him in. Just brings him in. Love it. But the newcomer of the year goes to a true freshman who led the team in receiving. Marcus Cowwise Jr., 42 catches, 526 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had some huge plays, and we saw some breakaway plays, but then these last couple of weeks, we saw him make game-saving plays, honestly. And we talked about it all season long. He's a freshman, but he doesn't look like it. No. He surely doesn't play like it. I hope he stays, and I hope this offense just flourishes with Cam Herget at quarterback, Marcus Cowwise, Braden Latham. Like, there's so much talent here. And Marcus really has stepped into that Jado role. Of you just trust him. That's all there's to it.
Yeah. For a 19-year-old guy or 18, however old he is. To be able to come in and just be trusted like that is pretty incredible. Amongst, I mean, the guy throwing to him is what, 24 years old. He's probably running routes against guys who are 24, 23 years old, and he's just killing it. And so I think the future. I mean, I know the future is bright for him, and no doubt he definitely was the one with the name all over this award.
Yeah, I agree. Any other? I know every player is great, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I did not do a special teams award. I know I should, because what you've done this year, what Baker has done this
Yeah,
year.
I put him in the newcomer conversation.
You're right.
Most improved, I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Like, Jacob Baker had a great season.
An awesome season.
I'm excited for him. Which reminds me, this has nothing to do with our awards, but Austin Welch officially offered as well. If he wants to come back. That saw that announcement. I've said a few things to him on Twitter.
Oh yeah, keep him coming. I talk to him every day. I put a bug in his ear.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look at this team this year, and I said it on Twitter. You've said it as well. Coach Wells has said it. Like, it's just a special group. And I mean, in the past couple of years in the Wells era, there have been good teams. There have been good players. Guys have gotten along, generally speaking. This team, from an outside perspective, you could see this team clicked. And like, it really was a special, an incredibly talented team. Like, I look at it and go, I was telling somebody this the other day, you had Parker. And so people would have said that the last year's team was more talented. I don't think that's the case. I think that this team had more talent, had more unity, had more drive, played for each other better than any other team that I've watched in my time covering EKU. And that's not to knock the previous seasons. It's just to promote what the team has been this year. We've talked to guys on this show, young and old, and they all say the same thing. I mean, everyone just really clicked, it seemed like, this year.
Yeah, it's definitely tough when you have the talent conversation, because there's been so many incredible players on these teams I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I talk about it to my friends who have transferred from the FBS level. And we're like, dang, dude, for like many years, like, we've had FBS type of talent like come through here, and guys who are in the NFL. And that's what Coach Wells is so good at recruiting. I mean, we got a guy who's playing for a chance to go to the college football playoff on Saturday for Iowa State, their number one receiver. So, I mean, and Davion Ross is over the number one corner over at Memphis, and he just got first team all conference, all AAC. So, I mean, we've had a lot of talent. And then we got three other guys in the NFL, a guy playing in the XFL, like three guys who had mini camps last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had a lot of talent come through here. So it's hard to have those talent conversations and comparisons. But the one thing, and time will tell with all that, right? You'll be able to see who has the long careers and who doesn't. But as far as this team goes, I mean, you're hit the nail on the head. The unity of this team is like no other, and the leadership. I mean, just to talk about our senior class, even the guys who transferred in, but even like you think about it, Josh Carter's a transfer in, but he's been here for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Nation's transfer in. He's been here for 4 years. That's a normal college degree, And so you talk about guys who transferred in, but they've been here almost just as long as us. And when you get guys together for that long, and you bring in the right people who care about each other, I mean, the coolest thing too, which this may be a little off topic, but we always do a Bible study every week on a Wednesday. And so the guys wanted to keep that going on Thanksgiving week, but we do it with FCA, and Andy was unavailable because it was Thanksgiving the next day and he had some family stuff going on. So 20 guys came over to my house, and we had a Bible study last week on a Wednesday night at 8:00, just because, well, we do it every week and we don't want to miss our time to hang out with each other and talk about God and getting our Bibles,
Yeah.
And so the things that we did this year as a team, the player, people can say whatever you can say whatever you want about, like, oh, player only meetings. I mean, they worked.
Yeah.
Those things worked. And so getting together in the players only meetings, we hadn't done that before. We had 3 different ones this year, maybe 4. The players board was a lot more active this year in doing things for the team and taking extra time outside of football and everything to learn about what it is to be a leader. And coach did a really good job teaching us different educational points on leadership and bringing speakers in. And we just really, it started in camp too. We had teams of people with all different backgrounds. You put us with some freshmen, different people, and we were forced to sit together for meals and just talk to each other. And so then, you become like, I don't think I talked. I'll just throw a name out there. I don't think I talked to Jaden West a whole lot his freshman year, but by golly, this year that was my favorite guy to have at meals. So, the stuff that they did, that Coach Wells initiated this year, and just the leadership and everything, it's been a special year. It's definitely hard to leave and hard to say goodbye, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, and it's been neat to watch you guys, over the years continue to grow, and guys growing into that leadership. That's something me and Rhino talked a lot about. Is his deal was, hey, it's my turn, and I got to step up, and you saw that from a lot of guys. I felt like Peyton was kind of always that guy since I knew him. I've been around so long, but no, you just mentioned it. You gave guys in like Matt Morrissey, who comes in and helps lead.
And he's a great leader.
Yeah. And again, I felt so bad because I'm never going to say fire a guy. I've never, but I kept calling for Cam. I kept saying, man, just let Cam in. Like, I don't understand why we're not letting Cam play, but I always had a preference but I really like Matt. Like, I'm not really not knocking on Matt. I just think for the time of the game, this is important, but nonetheless,
it's hard as a supporter of a team. You always have your own personal views, so I get that. But the one thing I'll say too about Matt and his leadership is he's not one to sleep on either, as far as the leadership goes. And we've talked about it before. You don't see many quarterbacks handing the ball off and going off to try to lead block, and that's just another testament to the guys that Coach Wells is bringing in as far as character goes. And that goes a long way in football. I've been around a lot of football players in my 5 years here, and the best football players didn't always play like it because of the character. And so you get good football players who have good character, and some pretty awesome stuff happens, like our little run that we went on this year.
Definitely. All right, so here's what we got going on for the show. Sometime next week, we'll announce it on Twitter. Sometime next week, myself and Duff and 3 to 4 other players are going to sit down in a room together, and we're basically just going to have story time. I'm going to have some questions to kind of get things flowing, but it's just going to be an opportunity for guys to share about their experience and their time at EKU, and share some football stories and some life stories and things like that. I'm really excited about this. Dr. Stereo down in Richmond is helping us out with this program. We're going to be doing the show from their showroom, and excited about that as well. They're a great company, great local company, handles everything from just mounting TVs to installing your audio visual needs at your house and your man cave or wherever you are. And honestly, I've tried to get EKU to call them about their football speakers sometimes as well. But Dr. Stereo is great, so they're going to partner with us for this program. We'll announce it on Twitter, hopefully in the next day or two, a day and time that we're going to do that show, and looking forward to that. And then at some point, I don't know if it's going to be before Christmas, after Christmas, early January, I'm not sure yet, but we're going to have a show finale, Sports Stove Local Hour finale. We're going to try to get on Coach Todd, Coach Hamilton, Coach Wells. We're going to talk to a whole bunch of people. It's probably going to be a 2-hour long program, but we're going to try to talk to a whole lot of people, and we're going to wrap up the Sports Stove Local Hour. And I'm hoping by that show to have a major announcement in regards to EKU coverage moving forward. And so we'll see it. We'll see if it's there by that time. If it's not, then we'll announce it whenever we've got the chance to announce it. But we've got, even though I am moving and closing down the local hour, we still have plans to make sure that you have the best EKU coverage possible. And so we're working hard on that to get that all in line and ready to go. And at some point, like I said, and we'll give plenty of announcement on social media about this, but we're going to have a huge finale episode as well, and try to get a whole bunch of people on to come in. And because the access that I've been given to EKU sports, from Matt Roan when he was here, to Rickson Lane when he was here, to the coaching staff, Coach Wells, Coach Hamilton, Coach Pro, Coach Todd, Coach Jones, Coach Bazzana, like the access I've been given has been absolutely incredible. And then, of course, the support from a lot of parents, student athletes, parents that tune in, fans, community members, things like that as well. So we want to make sure we go out in style. So we're going to work hard hard on that episode. And like I said, my goal is, by the time, that might be why we push it back a little bit, is so that we can give a major announcement about EKU coverage moving forward as well. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow us on social media at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram. We'll post when this next show is going to be, who all is going to be involved with that show as well. But our goal is to have just a great time sitting around chatting about these guys' time at EKU. And there's going to be, I'm sure, lots of stories. We will do our best to keep it PG, depending on who the guests are. We'll see how that shakes down. But it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time for sure. So, Duff, I appreciate you talking about that Villanova game, because I know that wasn't easy. And so I appreciate that. And you and Rhino both have been great to give good insight on what you guys have felt, seen, experienced, and all that kind of stuff, along with the guests that we've had on through the years as well. You guys have given us a great insight into the program. And hopefully we've been able to open the program up a little bit for fans and community members to kind of see. I've had more people this year tell me, hey, I finally watched your show. Man, that was fun. Those kinds of things. And it gives an opportunity for people to realize there's more than just, X's and O's to the football and to basketball and baseball and volleyball as well. But the opportunity for people to get to know you guys has been really cool. So that access has been very, very cool as well. All right, well, let's wrap up tonight. Anything else, Duff, you need to add before we close out tonight?
No, just I really appreciate you having me on here. This has been an awesome part of every week, and appreciate everyone that listens to this, and just getting to do this is pretty awesome. So I just appreciate everything.
Yeah, and like I forget who it was that said it last week. You can't forget about us. Don't forget the little guys once you're out there.
Latham, I think. Yeah,
living the big life. Yeah, Latham. Yeah. So no, hey, we'll be back next week at some point. I don't know when yet, but we're coming back next week with a phenomenal program. I hope that you'll tune in for that. Follow us, like I said, on social media. And I didn't even mention Righteous Felon today. I should have. Righteous Felon has been a great partner for me and my programs, and phenomenal jerky. I'm telling you, it's the best jerky. And I know I live in Kentucky. I know Mingy Beef Jerky has helped with the university, and I like Mingy Beef Jerky. But I promise you, if you try Righteous Felon, you'll like it better. And it's phenomenal stuff. And it's super affordable. Use that code STOVE15. You're looking at I think it's about $5 a bag for that Righteous Felon. They've got some great flavors and stuff. And so I ordered some for stocking stuffers. And I should probably say that quieter. But nonetheless, I got an order coming in soon. And you should as well. So check them out, righteousfelon.com. Promo code is STOVE15 for that. All right, friends, follow us. We'll let you know when the next episode is. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour. He's Jonathan Duff. I'm Vince Stover. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.